But you do want to, if you're on a live network, you want to update your server. You want to make sure your drivers are up to date, and you may want to even configure automatic updates. I'm not sure I'd want to just automatically download an update and use any updates that come along. But again, that's up to you and the organization that you work with. Okay, now during the installation process or during the boot up process, if you have trouble after you have installed your operating system, or you may need to install a new device driver, then you want to remember the F8 key. You can use this to boot into safe mode into a computer after the power on self test is completed. When you press F8, you get that special menu, and it'll allow you to boot with a minimum set of drivers, with or without command prompt, with or without network access, that will allow you to make some changes to your system, maybe reinstall drivers or perform other repair tasks to get your system back up and running again. Now, if you wanted to automate your installation, let me move back in my slide here a little bit. Excuse me. You can actually run with an unattended file. Unattended files are really wonderful because you can use them over and over again. It just gets you out of having to sit in front of the computer and type in all of the answers to all of the questions, setting the time, setting up, maybe even joining a domain. There's many things that you can do with an unattended file. And one thing that will catch you, and you're going to see this later on within the semester, because you're going to use an unattended file at some point, is that once that unattended file runs one time, it's going to erase the usernames, not the usernames, the passwords for the administrator, and you will have to put those back in. You can download the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit with WAIK and use a GUI interface and use this to deploy images out to other computers. Windows Deployment Services will allow you to bank or save a number of different installation images, whether it's workstation images or different types of server images, and then call those up to deploy them out to your servers on your network. Remember that your devices or your machines on your network, the network cards, have to be able to pixie boot, which is the pre-boot execution environment. Your server also has to be set up to listen for the machines that are pixie booting, which means you have to configure your DHCP server to listen for computers that are pixie booting and give them the information, an IP address that's going to, and a minimal little piece of an operating system so that they can get to the Windows deployment server to pull in an image file. Okay, let's talk about upgrading servers. You may have an occasion that you've already got a server operating system and it's time to upgrade that operating system. If at all possible, you probably want to do a clean installation, because upgrading a server can bring forward issues and problems that you may have been having before with your operating system. But you've got to remember that if you've got a 32-bit system, you can't upgrade it to a 64-bit system, nor can you go from 64 backwards to 32-bit. clean installations really will give you a more stable system. We ran into this when we were going from, I believe it, I don't remember if it was Windows NT to Windows 2000 or from 2000 to 2003, but it was a long, slow process because we had to do what we did was we chose to do as many clean installations as we could possibly do, and then migrate files over and migrate roles over to the newer operating systems. But then we had a few servers that we ended up having to do an upgrade on from the existing operating system to a newer operating system, and they did cause us quite a bit of difficulties when we did that. So just keep in mind that if you do a clean installation, it doesn't keep files around that are no longer needed. They don't bring existing problems to the new installation, and they give you a solid foundation for building a really stable server. And a clean installation will start from scratch, and any corrupted files or improper configurations will not be brought forward into your new system. But if you need to do an upgrade, then some of the things that you want to check are to ensure that your hardware is going to support the new system. Remember to perform a clean installation whenever possible. You want to ensure that your applications are compatible with the new version of the operating system. You want to test. I can't say that enough. Your applications against the new version of the operating system. Ensure that all kernel mode software has a digital signature, so it's been signed. Back up your existing server installation because you might have to go back to it, and then understand that you cannot uninstall the new operating system. You might have to totally rebuild. And once you've planned your upgrade thoroughly, tested everything as much as you possibly can, then you can go in and start your installation or your upgrade. Now let's talk a little bit about Server Core. Okay, this is a very new operating system. It was just released with Server 2008, and it has some benefits and some drawbacks to it. It's a command line interface only, but this can be good because it's a quicker install. It doesn't take as much hard drive space, so it has a reduced footprint installation, and it gives you a reduced attack surface. It's managed primarily through the command line, but you can also use PowerShell commandlets to administer it. I'm sorry. The Server Core installation is very fast, but it's more secure, but it does have limitations. Server 2008 only supports Active Directory domain services, Active Directory lightweight directory services, DHCP, DNS. These are the things you can use it for. File services, Hyper-V, print services, streaming media, and web server. If you have 2008 R2, you can run the same list along with web server, including ASP.NET. But again, you want to be sure that you can run these roles. You want to be testing and doing your research to be sure you can run these roles before you actually commit to Server Core. With Server Core, you're just going through the same installation process as you did before with your first server, and then when the installation is complete and you log on, you're going to notice that there's no start menu and nothing on the desktop except this black command prompt screen that's sitting there waiting on you to tell it what to do. So one of the most important tools that you can use for an 2008 R2 server is the Windows PowerShell. And you can access the Windows PowerShell by typing sconfig and pressing enter. And then when you do, you'll see a menu. Let me see if I can get it up there for you. There's a menu there that gives you some of the options, but I believe you're actually going to have to work with a standard command prompt and you're going to have to learn and research the the actual command line command that you're going to use to change the computer name, to set your IP address, and it's going to be a lot of research for you to do. And I'm going to, it's a lab assignment, and you're going to be able to have time to get that done. It's not going to be the first server that you install. It's going to be several labs down the road before we actually do a server core installation. But some of the extra commands that you need to learn about are the net command, which is used to perform a lot of the functions that are related to user and group administration, the shutdown command, the log off command, the WSA command, which is used to install updates, the task list command, which is used to view the running task, task manager, task MGR, is used to launch the task manager and manage processes. Disk part is used to create and manage disk partitions. Defrag, I think you know what defrag is. I hope you do by now. PnP util is used to install and manage device drivers. OC list is used to view available server roles for installation. And then OC setup is used to install driver roles. Now let's talk about device drivers. A device driver is simply a small program that is the communication or the interface between you, the user, and the hardware. The device driver will communicate with the hardware and communicate with the operating system applications. Um, the device driver has to communicate with the hardware and provide logic to the hardware, but it's just another software piece of software that just makes your life easier. Uh, Device drivers run in what's called kernel mode, and this is where the operating system itself runs. The driver will run at the operating system level. This means that when they have problems, they can crash the operating system. You need to know that your drivers are coming from a trusted source, and Windows is probably going to, the default is to not even allow you to install unsigned drivers. Drivers have to come with a digital certificate. You can disable that feature, but I really wouldn't recommend it. And device drivers are needed for all the hardware in your system. But, Windows will install some of these drivers for you, but sometimes you may run into drivers that did not get installed with the Windows operating system. And also drivers sometimes need to be updated after some time. The manufacturer of the hardware will put on their website updates to their drivers. So you want to look at where to get the drivers, and some of the places to get the drivers are going to be from the device vendor, the brand name of the hardware that you're using. If you're using a Dell computer or you're using an HP computer, you can go to their website, type in the model number off of your machine, and look for new drivers. You can also get drivers from the operating system vendor, or from, if it's connected to some special application, then there might be a vendor elsewhere that you can contact to get new drivers. Be careful with drivers, though. Be sure that you understand that even though there's a new driver out there, it might interfere with some of the applications you have actually installed on the computers or on your computer, and you need to be willing to take time to test that driver out thoroughly and know how to roll it back should you need to. So if you need to roll it back, you can actually go into Device Manager and either update the driver through there, or if the driver is causing you trouble, roll it back. And if the driver is causing you really serious trouble, that's when you've got to remember to use F8 and go into safe mode and see if you can handle your problems with the driver